Hello, and welcome to the Pro Series Conversations from CheckBox Pro. My name is Missy, and I'm the founder of CheckBox Pro, where we help school leaders become their most efficient and effective selves by matching them with ed-focused executive assistants. Each member of our team has over 10 years of experience in the education sphere, and though we may consider ourselves pros in some areas, we can't be an expert in every area. This is why we are excited to bring folks working in the education space to offer tools, tips, and insights to make the life of a school leader even more sustainable. Today, I'm chatting with longtime friend and colleague Sawyer Schafbuch. Sawyer got his start in public education in Memphis, Tennessee, after he successfully started and ran a music program for youth. With a strategic mind and an affinity for data, he took on the role as Director of Advancement at a local single-site charter school. He received his StoryBrand certification, and with the knowledge and skills he acquired through the certification process and role as Director of Advancement, he founded his own company, Everydesk, in 2020. Not an easy year to start something new. Sawyer believes in public education and truly believes that the U.S. will be a better place if more students are in schools that push them to be the best. He works with superintendents, principals, and marketing directors to help them clarify their message and put the right strategies in place to connect with families and increase student recruitment and enrollment. When he isn't working, then you will find him outside as much as possible with his 3 favorite people, wife, Natty, and 2 imaginative daughters, Zoe and Elliot. I know them, and they too are some of my very favorite people. So, hello, Sawyer.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you. Okay, so Sawyer, just every time I think about you, I just recall that you were my very first friend in Memphis, Tennessee at the ripe old age of 23, or I was 23. Um, you were working at that coffee shop down the street from my house, and it was during my first year teaching. And I think I was there nearly every single evening, lesson planning for like the very next day. like really ahead of the game, and pretty much just hating my life. But then, you'd make me whatever sugary coffee drink I ordered, and I lived to fight another day. You'll be happy to know I do drink black coffee now, so we have come a really long ways. Okay, so I'm not still teaching. Praise be. And you are not still working at that coffee shop. But before we get into the hard-hitting questions for today, because I just find it very fascinating the various jobs people have over the course of their lifetime, what would you say is one thing that you learned by working at that coffee shop?
Oh yeah. We could spend the rest of the conversation just on this question really, and people would gain a lot. So I think the number one thing I learned from that job was just like the value of like service,
Mhm.
serving people, no matter if it's making them coffee, like changing their oil, helping them with their marketing, like whatever that is, it is valuable and it feels good. Like I if it supported my family, I would go work a coffee shop gig again. Like I love it. It is so much fun. Um so yeah, service is valuable. And then when you're working a coffee shop, like everyone comes in for a different reason, like a
Mm.
slightly different reason. And I used to love just like learning people's motivations for being there. And then just like their motivations are slightly different for, arriving at the coffee shop, their drink preferences are slightly different. Like there's just people are fascinating, and there's no better like job to study people than being a barista. So I love it.
It's so true. Yeah, it was really fun because yeah, you were like a chatty Cathy. Or not even really you. Were a really good listener. It was a lot of people just chatting at you, and you asking like maybe 2 questions. And you just like
Oh yeah.
as you pour their coffee, they're pouring their whole life
And
out
there
on
wasn't
you.
alcohol in the coffee. It was just caffeine and sugar. Like there's uh no, I think that like if if I got dropped in a city and I didn't know anyone, I would look for a coffee shop gig or a bartending gig, and like in just trust the process, that if I start in one of those places, um, I'll get to know who I need to know, to move forward. But yeah, I love it. I loved it.
Love it. It was good times. It was good times. Um, okay, so sometime after that coffee shop and my short stint teaching, we found ourselves working together again at Grizzlies Prep in Memphis. And as the organization grew, because right, it started as just sixth grade, your role continued to change and grow with the needs of the school. So can you just tell us a little bit about, once again, all the different roles that you had while working at GP?
Yeah, well, I'll just share the roles that were on paper because, lunch monitor, bathroom supervisor, like all uh those ones didn't get recorded. But no, so I started out as a music teacher. So at the time, and really when I was working that coffee shop too, I'd started a community music school, and I did that for about 4 years. And Grizzlies Prep started off as like a client, like as one of the schools that I went to during the day. We do private lessons, and then we work with public schools providing music lessons. So I started as like a music teacher, as an elective teacher, and that was my first time running actual classrooms, with 25 kids and musical instruments. And I just loved it so much. It was such a great challenge. And so I did that. And then this school became like the electives program was growing. So providing, different arts programming beyond just math and reading. So then I became the director of like that program, the electives program. So training artists how to survive in classrooms. Uh, so I did that for maybe a year. And then the school was looking to grow, and I came on full time then as a director of advancement. So I was in charge of all the development and student recruitment. So with that music school, I did that for about 4 years, and a big part of that was fundraising, writing grants.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I had that experience going into there. I kind of went into that job expecting to enjoy the development and fundraising, elements more, but I really liked the enrollment in the student recruitment stuff. I kind of gravitated towards that, which was a surprise for me. But yeah, did that for 4 years or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get into obviously the reason I brought you on here in a second, but I did before you came in, I was over student recruitment. Like I was doing the
Oh.
elementary school visits to try to get people to apply, and I was doing a lot of the school tours. And listeners, I was not as effective. Like Sawyer just came in and totally revamped and truly made it a really well-oiled machine. And like, again, kind of as I mentioned before, like just super strategic, really digging into data and finding out like how, like, how can we do this with the in the most efficient way, right? Like, so we're just not going and visiting 50 different schools over, across the whole city to get two applications, which was kind of what I did. So, thank you for taking it over and just
Well,
full stop.
a few things with that. Like one, kind of like your experience is what a lot of single site charter schools experience, where they have operations people in that role. And
Yeah.
so like no one's going to put together a enrollment packet or a registration packet better than you. And same with, operations folks, like
Yeah.
they're really thinking, what are the things we need to get this student here? What they're not thinking is like, how do we take a family from not knowing anything about the school to really excited to send their student there? Like, what does that
Yeah.
process need to look like? And that takes kind of a different brain or thinking a different way. Thing
Yeah.
is, you need both.
Yeah.
And like I had, so you were at Grizzlies Prep, and then I had another colleague, Courtney Murray, who's just just incredible operations like technicians. So like you can't have just one type of person. I really think you need it needs to be teamwork where you have maybe a strategic or a creative type person paired with an operations focused, person. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I, as an ops person, I appreciate it. Thanks for thanking us for keeping us in the loop. But okay. So flash forward 12 years. Okay. You and I and our families are still really good friends and just so grateful. But you're also one of the first people I call if I have like a strategic business or like a marketing decision I need to make just for Checkbox Pro. So I'd like to say that we still work together, like,
Oh
not
yeah.
working for the same company anymore, but still like very much our work is tied together. And just have a lot of respect for you, for your brain, right? Because again, it's very different than mine. So thank you for that. But I brought you on today to tap into a little bit of that brain that's so different than ours, right? It's in to talk about enrollment, which is such a hot topic right now, and probably always is a hot topic for schools, be it charter, private, public, even, right? But so my first question related to this topic is first, like, why is student enrollment so important, and how does it impact a school's budget for any listeners out there who might not be kind of entrenched into any of, into this world as much?
Yeah. So I'll go back to, first year as director of advancement and uh, having this kind of gap in the budget or looking at the budget and thinking to myself, seeing the options and be like, okay, I can go get 100 individuals or, whatever, let's say 10 individuals to give me $1,000.
Mhm.
Or I go into the sixth grade classroom and there's an empty seat and I can get one sixth grader in there who's going to spend 3 years at the school,
Mhm.
right? Both of those provide the school with, $10,000. Now,
Wow.
um, one you're providing services for, and so obviously there's costs associated with that. Um, but on the development side, like, great, you got those 10 businesses to give, or $1,000. You need another 10 the next year, and you need another 10 the next year. Like
Yeah.
they're just realize like how important having all the seats filled up at your school, like that should be your baseline.
Mhm.
Um, uh, like financially, do that first.
Yeah.
Because not only does it, help your budget, but like if you truly believe that your school is a better option than the neighborhood school and that students' lives are getting transformed, then it's a double hitter. Like you're you're offering an education to a student who would not have had that amazing education, and it's providing, stability to your organization. So it just seemed like it seems like such a no-brainer priority. Um, your school or schools exist to serve families, and if you're not serving students, if you don't have students in your building, then what are you doing? So it's
Yeah.
uh I think it's just primary to running a charter school.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So your company, Everydesk, right, is there to help schools with this enrollment problem, right? Or this enrollment baseline. I like that, even
Yeah.
that term, right? Like just let this be your baseline. It's the reason you exist. So it's you explained, right? So we know it's valuable and it's for the most part, like should be a semi-predictable revenue stream, right? Like to your
Yeah.
point, like development and fundraising, right? You're kind of on the whim of like the person's giving spirit for that year or that foundation's ability to give or right, like that is not quite as
Or the tax code threw things
there.
off in 2016, I remember. But yeah.
So I want to know a little bit more about your company, um, specifically what it looks like, what you do for schools, why you started it. I mean, I know you've touched a little bit on some of these points, but if you could just go a little bit more into kind of the background for that and into the work you're doing with clients today.
Yeah, so started in 2020. Really, there was, personal family stuff going on. We were moving. I was moving out of Memphis. We had our first kid. We wanted to get closer to family. And our family is in Iowa. So, like the families and the communities that I'd spent 10 years, working with and serving, like I wanted to be connected to that work and connected to education. And it was that time where, pandemic, everyone was working from home anyway at that time. It's like, I'm pretty sure that I could provide a lot of value to schools and not have to be on site and, continue these relationships and continue serving the families I want to serve, and do it from the Midwest, do it from Des Moines. So I started it to like stay connected to work that I care about and also get my family closer to our family network. So that was the personal push I had to start the business. Everydesk is a student recruitment marketing consultancy. All right. So we partner with schools on a monthly basis. We first tackle their messaging, make sure they have a message that connects with families. We then build a student recruitment journey with them. So taking families from interested all the way to committed and looking at the different strategies and, things we need in place to get that done. And then we turn to the monthly execution. So usually that's running some sort of digital campaign or, usually a digital campaign, working on websites, getting collateral, whether that's flyers or mailers or door hangers, whatever that is, those tangible things that they need to execute their recruitment. And then every month, like looking at the numbers and problem solving and always trying to create a path forward. So that's what we do on a monthly basis. We're definitely partners with schools. Like we partner with enrollment teams, and found that we're a great fit for those single site or those maybe they have a couple campuses but not a huge central office with kind of the marketing folks or that infrastructure in place.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've definitely seen the value added to like those single site schools and their need to be able to contract these services out because like you said, they don't have these huge home office or network team in which to lean on. So that's great. Okay. So obviously I don't know much about this world, right? But marketing, right? Like there are marketing firms out there. So there's plenty of options, I would imagine, for schools to choose from when it comes to like getting their messaging out or to running those ads, like you mentioned. What would how are you different from maybe your other marketing firms that are kind of out there to choose from?
Yeah. So I exist to serve public charter schools. That's why the business exists. So when you have such a specific, client, then the solutions look very specific and look very different than what a typical marketing firm, would provide. I look at the holistic enrollment and recruitment process from everything marketing to then everything logistical and actually getting a family in the door and in a desk the first day of school. So that's experience, that I've gained over the last decade that someone from a marketing firm isn't going to think through that. They're gonna sell you on pay-per-click ads. They're gonna tell you to invest money in SEO. And it's not that any of that's wrong. It's just that they're many times not looking at like a holistic approach. So that's the first thing is that approach. I primarily am a consultant, not a agency. And so I really do partner on a monthly basis to problem solve because things change so quickly for schools.
Yeah.
And so um, a way to think, a way I think about it sometimes is like, imagine if you're a single site charter school and you really want to hire a director of communications or director of marketing, but you don't have the budget to do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I have that experience. You can hire a fraction of that skill, or you might not need someone full time, but just a fraction of the time to empower your operations team on the ground,
Yeah.
create that kind of what we were talking earlier, that synergy between operations and maybe that strategy and creative. So um, I favor more the consultancy than the agency. Now we can get you Google ads if that's what you need. We can get you a website if that's what you need, but you might not need that.
Mm.
And so we look at that whole picture. And then like I'm meeting with every client. I am personally meeting with every client and I know what's going on in schools and I've experienced it. So you're not going to get someone at a marketing agency that's had to do lunch duty uh, or like yeah, cleaned up vomit in a classroom when some kid got sick. Like there's just once you've worked in education, like there's just these experiences that you understand what's going on, and and yeah, and it informs what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to brag on you just a little bit because obviously we have, well, not obviously, we have some clients that overlap. And so I get to kind of see your work firsthand. And I just appreciate like your adaptability to like the needs of that leader, right? Like some leaders need it in word form, like they just need to read it. And so it's a quick email that you're sending them with like updates, right? Other leaders are like, please don't make me read another email, but like I'll watch a little screen share video that's gonna like walk me through and it's like 3 to 5 minutes. I've got the information and now I can move on and like kind of know where I am. But I think to your point, like these bigger agencies who don't understand what the life of a school leader is like, or even
Yeah.
these marketing director, like even if they do have somebody who's the boots on the ground enrollment person, they are running ragged, right? Like they are giving tours, they are knocking on doors, they are, just interfacing with so many people, like they don't have time to pull that data for themselves. They certainly
Yep.
don't have time necessarily to always have an hour-long meeting in which to get that information downloaded to them. So I think it's been really cool to see how because you know what it looks like to work in a building, how to like adapt and change and think through like what does this leader need in order to get the information so that we can keep pushing forward, because it's like a quick turnaround for
Oh yeah.
enrollment. Like, you've got to move quickly, especially once like the season ramps up. So um okay, so I think most of our listeners probably understand, right? Like charter and private schools have an application process, right? Charters are required. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. Like they have to have a lottery, assuming they get more applicants than they have spots available. Private schools are allowed to be selective about who they accept based on their own internal criteria. So like the fight, right? Or like the grind for those applicants is like an expected focal point for these schools and these leaders year over year. Like that's something that they can expect to have to focus on. However, I feel like recently I've seen clients struggle with enrollment like more this year and kind of even moving into this upcoming school year than I've seen in years past. Um, and I feel like I'm seeing it for the first time with like even public school districts. Like I feel like I'm hearing more conversations about that. So I think my big question is like, why do you think we're seeing this like downward trend in enrollment? Like, why is that happening for schools this year and maybe like into next school year? Like, why? And or am I off base with my assessment? I don't know. I just, I've got my few little my few little data sets, and it feels like
Yeah.
I'm just seeing this like frenzy right now. I'm feeling that frenzy energy more so this year than I feel like I've felt or seen in the past.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's necessarily true for all markets. I think, there's schools I work with that are having their best enrollment years,
Oh, okay.
you know, but it's dependent on the market, dependent on the city. Um, I think it's definitely happening in certain cities. Um, Contributing factors would be, first of all, just more competition than ever before. Like there's there's more charter schools than ever before. There's more private schools. Like they're just feeling that competition. So that's one thing. Two, I think there's been in certain cities a concerted effort by public schools to like get back their students.
Mm.
And with that effort, like lots of public dollars are being spent. So it is it is something where the regular district was experiencing some bleed of students, and then now they're doing something about it. So
Mm.
both those things are just that's competition.
Yeah.
I I'm not an expert on this, but I do think that like birth rate's been going down, and so we might have some fewer students to enroll as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure certain cities, like even if birth rates are going down on a national level, certain cities are growing. So that's
Yeah.
not going to be true for everybody. And then I think lastly, like we are going through like technology is just changing so much, and advertising that has worked, things that used to work, like people are getting really good at tuning things out. And I think whenever life feels chaotic, and I think life feels chaotic for a lot of people right now, a lot of families, like you just insulate, you just protect. And so you're less open to new ideas. There's definitely more cynicism when it comes to trusting institutions and trusting different schools. So I think that people are probably more closed off, more um, term is like ad blind, more they
Yeah.
so all those things are playing into each other, um, and creating more of a challenge. Uh, there's always a way forward. Like you got to do we got to do the best we can when there's these market pressures. Um, but that's like you got to get creative for every school. It's going to look a little different.
Yeah. I mean, competition's good. Like if you think back to like what kind of your even belief, right? Like we want to push kids to be their best, and that means we have to create the best schools, and you don't create good schools and the best schools by not having competition. Like healthy competition is a really good drive for change. So,
Yeah.
but it's not easy.
It's not easy, and there's probably a point where that tips and is no longer helpful. But
Yeah.
no, I think that like providing just the best education experience that a family will rave about and tell their friends and family, like that's always going to be important.
Yeah. Okay, so have the schools. You mentioned you're obviously, you're a virtual marketing firm where, Everydesk is, but they all have usually one employee. Kind of to your point, it's usually an ops person or
Yep.
it's the school leader themselves, right? That's overseeing that student recruitment and onboarding process. So then you come in, you offer that unique perspective, that marketing, that advertising focus, that these employees are then able to maximize their time by engaging with current and like prospective families. So maybe think through like a recent client, or maybe just, think back like what some of the early stages of working with a new client are, and maybe what are the problems. Let me go just to my actual question. Like, what are the biggest pitfalls you see schools make in regards to student recruitment? And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'll share a couple of them. So right off the bat, uh, what their website is, so it's the cornerstone of all their efforts. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot can go wrong with the website. I think the first problem is that um, their website becomes a catch-all for everything the school is doing.
Mhm.
Okay. And instead, at least the homepage, it needs to be geared towards prospective families.
Yeah.
Like that is the audience. So knowing your audience is prospective families, your
Mhm.
homepage of your website needs to speak to them.
Yeah.
And it clearly, it outlines your value. It shows them what student transformation looks like at your school. It shows them how easy it is to apply and gives them a process, uh, and doesn't hide the important information for a new family. Um, a lot of times we'll get on a website of a new client, and sometimes it's like, oh, this this website is speaking to a donor. Like
Mm.
I if I'm a family, I don't want to see stats about how many economically disadvantaged students you serve. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
I don't want to know that most of your kids are come in three late grade levels behind. Like all that might be true.
Yeah.
If I'm a prospective parent and I see that on your homepage, like that's a big turnoff. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, there's a place for that. There is a development page, landing page that needs to have that information. It probably shouldn't be on your homepage. So like really thinking through who's your audience and then how can my website serve that
Yeah.
primary audience. Um, in general, we group all our audiences together. We try to speak to everybody, and when we do that, we end up speaking to nobody. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing.
Okay.
Um, I think uh, the second is like realizing there are stages of recruitment enrollment. And so I break them, this is a story brand thing, but break them into three boxes. You start out as interested, then you bring them to a stage of education where they're learning about your school, nurturing, and then the final stage is when they actually commit. Okay.
Mm.
And so many times in recruitment efforts, we expect people to be in like that commitment box.
Yeah.
So it's apply now. And it's like they just found out who you are. They know nothing about your leadership, nothing about, uh, your school hours or anything it's asking for too much too soon. So really nurturing families through interested all the way to committed, um, rather than everyone just needs to apply now, I think is an important second step. I think I'll end there for that question.
Yeah, I have a follow-up though to that. So when you're saying the word like, okay, committed, that third box, is receiving the application, just getting a family to apply, is that that puts them in the commitment box? That it's not you are accepted and have all your enrollment documents and you get to be here day one. Like that's not committed. It's just submitting that application is a sign of commitment in your opinion.
So yeah, that's a great question. No, I wouldn't say families are committed till they're in the seat on the first day of school.
Okay.
And I think that's a big mistake is, oh, this person filled out an application. Great, they're going to be here. And you've counted them. And then you fail to nurture them throughout the spring and summer, to get them more connected to staff, to get them more connected to their families, to get them following you everywhere online. Like that's a huge mistake is thinking that an applicant is a committed family. No, they don't count till
They're in the
yeah,
yeah.
until they're in the seat.
So we're continuing that like that second box, that nurturing box, really all the way through until day one of school or their first day at the school, because I can submit that application and I still need to, maybe now I need to come in for the tour. Because you'll have some families who are just like, they apply, they're like, I skipped right over the nurture and I'm going to submit
Yep.
that application. But then I don't ever hear from anybody, or I don't ever get to have a school tour. I don't, so, okay. So that box still has to extend. That nurturing piece extends.
Yeah. And
For,
of course it's that sliding scale. Interested is over here, committed is over here. In the
yeah.
middle is the nurturing education. So that is when they fill out an application, they are further along towards committing than they ever have been in their journey.
Yeah.
But there's still more work to be done
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
them there on the first day.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's assume schools can't work with you right at this moment, right? Like they don't have it in the budget, or, they've never learned about you. This is their first time, they are
Yep.
in the interested bucket now themselves. Though I will tell all these listeners, like, if you're having issues with enrollment, you really do need to reach out to Everydesk. But so what are some literally like 2 to 3 quick, easy things that a school can employ now, right? Because they're in the thick of it now, to maximize their student enrollment for this upcoming school year?
Yeah. So we're talking in May here, May, June. So like,
That's true.
I would say, first off, just nurture your families. So the quick win is send a email every other week. This email shouldn't be just logistical. Shouldn't just be, begging them to turn in their registration documents. It needs to be mission aligned. It needs to be highlights of student transformation. It needs to be pictures. It needs to be, quotes from current families. Like, make it engaging, and then, have like one call to action, which might be turn in your documents, or might be come to the parent night, or get ready for orientation, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So, but be sending emails on a bi-weekly basis. And if you're using like text campaigns, which many schools are, you don't want to burn them out, but maybe send a text a month or something. And everything that's going into your bi-weekly kind of newsletter, make sure that's on your social media as well. And really, you can copy and paste from one into the other. But be nurturing families, create touch points over the summer. A lot of schools do a good job of this, where you might be having a barbecue, or you might have a movie night, or you might just like offer these prospective families, these new families, a chance to deepen their relationship over the summer.
Yeah.
So I would do that. I'm trying to think of other things they could change, just like right now. If they don't, this is kind of prepping for next year too, but like, if your application does not have a "how did you hear about us" question, if you can add that and you don't have it, go add that question today. That's again one of the first changes that we have to make typically. So yeah, I think those would be two kind of quick wins. And then if I was going to add a third, it's just like, you can never focus on this enough. Like, what does student transformation look like at your school?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell that story over and over again on your website, on your social media, especially when you're talking to new families. Many times we get, you're so in the weeds that you're talking about, your math curriculum and your, literacy rates and this and that, and all of that is so important. But we can get a little in the weeds, and we need to kind of zoom out and go like, we just need to see student success. What does student success look like at your school? Great question is, just close your eyes and picture, one of your favorite students the first day that they showed up, and then picture them as they've graduated or walked across the stage. Like, what happened in that 6 years or 8 years?
Yeah.
And then how can you highlight that on all your, media channels?
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Any other advice, Sawyer, for schools, since, like I said, they're in the thick of it when it comes to recruitment, onboarding, and what we have not even, we haven't touched on this because it's not really the work that you do, but it's, if we're thinking about Everydesk, well, to your point, like, you've got kids in seats already. You got to keep them, right? Like, retention is its own separate thing. But I think, to your point, like, nurturing the families that you have is just as important as like nurturing a new family, right? Like, it's really hard. You kind of get tired by the end of the year, the people you've been sitting shoulder to shoulder with, or like the teacher that maybe you've had that conflict with, or, you just get tired of the same old, same old.
Yeah.
But even nurturing them. So anyways, I'll open that up to you. Like if there's anything else broadly on any of those areas, just from your experience that maybe a leader needs to hear.
Yeah. Well, if we touch on like retention real quick, especially this time of year, um, we have such short like attention spans and such short memories. Okay. So as a school, like how can you remind families why they signed up in the first place?
Yeah.
And like how can you prove that you have delivered on that promise? Um, and
Yeah.
and put that in front of them. A lot of schools are doing award ceremonies right now, which is great. You can take all that content from your awards ceremonies and package it up and send them, remind them of it throughout the summer.
Yeah.
Um, I think like, so yeah, that's what I would do for retention. I think great schools, especially in their founding years, like in their early years, they do a
Yeah.
great job of retention because they're so personal, because they
Yeah.
have to be. Um, and so if you're in that boat and you're also like struggling with new students, just a quick win might be go out to your dismissal line and just thank every family for like trusting you with their child, and then
Yeah.
say, and guess what? We got next school year coming up. We'd love to have more families just like you. So if you got family and friends, like
Yeah.
send them our way. We've got some seats. We'd love to have them because like you are the ideal family, and we started the school because of you. Um, so that might be a quick win for people out there. Uh, a lot of schools have done that, but if you haven't, give it a shot.
I'm finally, I'm a mom with, kids in kindergarten. My oldest is in kindergarten, right? Like, and so it's the first kind of experience of being on that side of things where it's like, I do appreciate when that school is celebrating my kid, right? Or even seeing them celebrate other kids' success. Like, oh, that's what we have to look forward to. Like, we're excited about when we are in fifth grade because then we get to go on that really cool field trip, and it's exciting for
Yep.
her. It's exciting for me. But then, yeah, like anytime, and like you said, it doesn't take much. It's just like a thank you, and you're like, I don't know why, but you're like, as a parent, it's like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for thank you for because I do drive 40 minutes to get here, like in the
Oh
morning
yeah.
with traffic, like it is a hurdle. So I think that's really, really important reminder for families. So okay, I have one final question for you as we wrap up. And in the spirit of my company's name, what is one box, big or small, that you hope to check off today?
Today, I got too many boxes I need to check off today. I'm in today I'm in the website mode. I'm building I have to get a website done in the next, yeah. So I just I'm working on that for the rest of the day.
That's a big box. That's a big box.
Yep.
Well, Sawyer, I think the work you're doing is super helpful. I've seen it, like I said, with the clients that we've overlapped. I get to see the impact that you're making for those schools and for those leaders and just their enrollment efforts. Tell us real quick, how can school leaders get in touch with you to learn more, or if they want to, work with Everydesk, what's their next steps?
Yeah. So they can go to everydesk.org and find me there. I'm booking clients for next school year, so if they're interested, they can fill out a form that lets me know they're interested. And then there also are some resources that may be helpful. So I've got just a free video series that
Okay.
takes you through student recruitment process. You'll find that on that homepage. I've got for those of you kind of forecasting your enrollment and your budgets, I've got a enrollment calculator on there where you can pop in, historical retention, matriculation, all that kind of stuff, and figure out where your seats are going to land for this coming school year. So that might be another tool that's useful for folks. But yeah, everydesk.org. That's it.
All right. Well, listeners, I'll make sure to get that information in the episode notes. So, you don't need to remember that off your top of your head. You can just click the link. But Sawyer, thank you. Thank you so much for your time building a company that helps families find, the learning environment that's going to value them as students and as families and push them to grow and be their best selves. The leaders we work with at CheckBox Pro have so many things that they're managing and trying to keep track of. And I just appreciate that you help lighten that load by truly understanding their mission, coming up with creative ways to help get them in front of families, and just being, proactive and sharing that data with them. It really does make a difference. So thank you all for listening. Join us next time to hear from more education pros. Thank you.
Thank you.